And welcome everybody to the next episode of the Woo Woo Girls Guide to Infinite Wisdom with myself, Mario Quendo, and the incomparable Laura Sanger Watkins.
Hello, and what an introduction.
Yeah, well, I'm working on them. And today's topic will be Libra and crystals. So
Yay!
I'm gonna turn it over to Laura.
Well, Libra is under from September 23rd through October 22nd. If you were born between those dates, then you're a Libra. Libra is a cardinal sign, which means it has a lot of driven, motivated, pushy energy, and it's an air sign. So it's going to have this energy is expressed through the element of air, which would be creativity and mentality and intellectual stuff. And usually air signs incorporate thinking in the very upper chakras, like mind expansion, things like that. So Libras are very motivated towards ideas and intellectual pursuits, but because they're also ruled by the planet Venus, they are very oriented towards things of beauty, either beautifying the person through hairstylists, makeup artists. A lot of really excellent makeup artists are also Libra, but also art itself or dance because they're also very physical. They like to keep fit. They like dance and yoga and things like that. And Libras are also very drawn towards design. So a lot of interior decorators tend to be born under the sign of Libra as well, or even just collectors and appreciators. I used to work for a gentleman who was a Libra, and he loved art. Couldn't paint or draw anything, but he was a bona fide collector, and his house was a very wild hodgepodge of things that he found beautiful. And even though they might not have made sense when you first walked in, eventually it all kind of fell into place, and it was kind of a fun place to hang out. It was like some wild dream that somebody was having, but that's what his house was like. And let me think. Libras are known for, well, it's funny because most, like Aquarius, they're an air sign and they have very strong opinions and ideas. Libras also can hold strong opinions and ideas, but they're very relationship oriented. They're the natural ruler of the seventh house on the zodiac chart, and that's the house of relationships and partnerships. So a lot of times they will water down what they really think, or they'll bite their tongue in order to maintain peace and harmony rather than really let it rip. Libras can be accused sometimes of telling you what you want to hear, or a version of the truth instead of the blunt truth. But, they're probably the sign that created the white lie for a reason. Sometimes, I remember I think it was a friend of mine, another Libra, who once told me that white lies are the glue that holds society together. But they're not dishonest. It's not like it's more lies of omission or a watering down rather than a bold-faced lie. Do you know what I mean? They're not necessarily liars. They just kind of spin their truth so as to not hurt anybody. Or, the more badly expected Libras will spin the truth to get their way. But it's still the truth. It's just maybe not the full concentrated version of it.
All right, you know what? Well, I can see that because, like my mother always used to say, if you don't have something nice to say,
Come sit next to me.
Don't sit.
Come sit next to me. No, yes. Well, they're very, and they're known as diplomats. They're excellent lawyers. Anything with a lot of verbal, but they can be persuasive. They have that cardinal energy, but they're not really pushy like some other cardinal signs, like Capricorn, the cardinal Earth sign. They're very, very driven. But Libras kind of tend to code it in a charm because they are intuitive as far as they're excellent students of human nature. So they kind of can read somebody and kind of tailor their sales pitch to the person and flatter them, and they can be very, very charming. They can be I keep saying that, but it's true. Like, I think I even wrote it in my blog post. They could probably sell you an air conditioner if you live in an igloo. And that there's a place for that in this world. What else do I know? Oh, Libra. Oh, yes, they have a very strong sense of fairness, and they are very outraged by perceived injustices, either for themselves or for others. And they're constantly trying to seek a balance within their own lives. And it comes across almost as wishy-washy or not having any kind of conviction. And that's not always the case. It's just that if they swing wide one way, they have to go wide the other way to balance it out. It's a lifetime process trying to find that perfect medium point on the scale. So they're constantly tipping back and forth to try to like get there. It takes time. And they're the people too that they absolutely hate it if their friends don't like each other. If Libra likes a crowd, Libra likes everyone to get along, and if they have a bunch of people at a party and two of their friends don't hit it off, it really disturbs them. So they're constantly trying to like talk up the other one to the friend that doesn't like them and vice versa. Usually they're peacemakers, they're mediators, they're excellent marriage counselors. They're the ones that want to like make everybody happy again.
Right.
So they can kind of get themselves into some codependent messes, kind of like Cancer. I mean, there's a little bit of a drive there too, but with Cancer, it's more like, let me love you until I lose myself. With Libras, it's like, I want to make you happy, and I will not tell you the truth about how I feel in order to do that, and so I will seethe inside because I'm not fully expressing myself. It's more like that.
Okay. One thing because I was reading your blog, and you have here something on it. They tend to overcommit. Now,
yes.
I have both my father and my brother are both Libras, and they were born within days of each other. And I have watched my entire life of them swinging from point to point. Hold on one second. Which I thought was always, because I had always thought of Libras as being like stable and stuff like that. But if you think of the scale going back and forth all the time, both my father and my brother. So maybe there's some genetics that played some part in that.
Maybe.
But
it's also too. I mean, like Geminis are accused of doing the same thing sometimes. In the Gemini's case, they are flaky. With the Libra's case, it's just this constant seeking balance. So if you picture like, when you drop a boat into the water and the boat rocks back and forth, the water gets high on one side and low on the other. You know what I mean? So there's that constant movement back and forth, and it can look flaky. It can look, well, wait a minute, you just felt this way about this thing, and now you're saying this thing. You're saying this about this thing, and it's a balance. It's a constant trying to. It's a teetering of. It's like a pendulum swinging back and forth, and it isn't so much about. But flakiness, it's just definitely trying to.
Yeah, I never saw it as being flaky, but whatever it is they did, they were always swinging from one side of the pendulum to the other. So it was like almost like polar opposites.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, and then and it makes them. It gives Libras a bad rap, and if they don't mean to, it's just sort of something they have to struggle with because. That balance is something that's almost like an internal unconscious drive that they have that other signs don't seem to have as much. I mean, everyone is seeking a balance in their lives. No one wants to work all the time or like not have enough to do. I mean, everyone is seeking balance on some sense, but with Libras, it's almost like an unconscious drive rather than a conscious decision to try to seek it.
Okay.
But the other fun, and Libras, because they are so relationship motivated, a lot of time, they're not disloyal people. They're naturally they're very relationship oriented. Even the men, like most Libra men, might be a little like they're not like the typical stereotypical commitment phobe men. They want a partnership. They want to be in a relationship. When I think of the perfect Libra relationship, I think of John Lennon, not perfect, but just a good one. John Lennon and his passion for Yoko Ono. When he met the person he believed was his soulmate, he was all in from Jump Street. And that's how Libras can be. They're hesitant if something doesn't feel right, but if they really, they then make that person. I mean, they want to spend all their time with that person. They want that person to be involved in like lots of things, and it's not like a clingy thing. It's more like they just really, really like that person a lot, and they want to share everything with them. And it can be really fun being in a relationship with a Libra, or if you are more of a loner type, it can be really exhausting. It's up to you.
So, with both my father and my brother, they're like the stones that might have helped them achieve their balance. My father passed away a couple of years ago, My brother is, we're not speaking, so I can't
Mhm.
recommend any stones for him, and he wouldn't accept them even if I did. Um, but I like these
He's the one.
choices that you have here.
You do?
Uh, yeah, because a lot of what goes on with them. I love the rose quartz, by the
Well,
way.
they definitely, one of the a lot like most of the other two air signs, Aquarius and Gemini, they can come across as detached and superficial and
Yes.
unfeeling. That's
Yeah.
the air. That's that air element. It's not a lovey-dovey, mushy, very emotionally open element to deal with in relationships or even friendships. There's a bit of a standoffishness, and it's not overt. It's just kind of, but it's partially because these particular signs, Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. They live in their head, and where like Gemini is probably, they're more mutable, and Aquarius is fixed, and then the cardinal signs are a little more passionate. So while the other two air signs might be a little bit more standoffish emotionally, Libras are a little bit more. They're definitely a lot more accessible. They're a lot more, and their emotions are a lot more easily accessed. However, what they need is to soften, and that's why I recommend the rose quartz and also the lepidolite, because while it's a mental stone, it's also have that pink, like heart chakra energy too. And so it's a pretty good balance for an air sign to have. Yes, let's enhance their mental energy, yet let's make it softer. And
Well,
that's what
I
I.
also see lepidolite as a chill out stone. Like seriously chill out.
Yeah.
Um,
Stop
you
running
know,
around.
yeah. You know what? Yeah, we hear what you're saying. We're just not listening to you. Chill out. Also, the moonstone. I always like moonstone as a good balance stone. I think a lot of people don't recognize the moon energies for just awesome, like how great they really and truly are. I mean, they just see like with full moons, sometimes people get nuts and stuff like that. But and I think it's because they haven't taken the time to like connect with that kind of energies. They don't know
Mhm.
what to do with it, and they just simply go nuts. The moonstone is a good stone if you really want to balance your energies, but that requires paying attention to it.
It's very soothing. It's a very soothing stone too. And Libra. If you, I think of cardinal signs as being kind of like, the cardinal energy is kind of hot and fiery, and then with an air sign, you got a lot of hot air. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
oh my God. Yes. Thank you.
You got a lot of hot air.
That
So what you want to do,
explains
you got
that
to calm and
explains
cool
him
some of that.
really well. Thank you.
And it's funny because within the genders, I mean, it sometimes there are certain signs that are hard. Like it's really hard for a man to be a Pisces because that is like the wateriest of the water signs, and it could be difficult for a woman to be an Aries because it's a very go-getter, fiery fire sign, and a lot of times that really pushy, like driven energy isn't respected within women. They're called bitches instead of leaders. You know what I
Right.
mean? Which I hate because I love Aries energy, and I've known a lot of Aries women who are fantastic. And I believe men also struggle a little bit with Libra because of the lovey-dovey orientation, and there is a need for connection, and it's not like, and it's unmanly to admit it, and so they kind of try to, like, it's almost like they overcompensate for a little bit by being kind of tough. If you think, I'm using John Lennon as an example again because he's dead and he can't yell at me, but a lot of his earlier lyrics, there's that. I mean, he's an angry guy. You know what I mean? John Lennon was a pretty angry dude, and it comes across a lot, even in their little harmless pop songs, like "Run for Your Life If You Can," "Little Girl," "Catch You in the," he's basically threatening to kick this chick's ass if she like steps out on him. He's definitely, he's got that anger, and he's angry at the government and everything else too. But like at the same time, here's a man that needed a connection so deeply. I mean, when his mother abandoned him and he never ever got over it. I mean, that's something that haunted him his entire life. And I know that his relationship with Yoko, she was a little bit older than him, not much, but there, he clung to her. I mean, she allowed him to run around on her too, because she even said, you're driving me crazy, go away. But he called her all the time, even though they were living on separate coasts. I know a little bit too much about John Lennon, but
Obviously, because
but
I
the
didn't even know
energy
he was. I didn't even know that about him.
that
I bet my
he was a
cousin
Libra.
did.
Oh
What was
well,
that?
I like to sometimes when I'm talking about certain signs, I like to do rock stars charts, and you see their life and you can see their patterns. It's pretty interesting. I once used David Bowie as a case study as being one of these he's really outrageous, but he's actually a Capricorn. He's a brilliant businessman, but outrageous image aside. But John Lennon, he had this internal conflict because he wanted to be strong and independent and tough. He wanted to be what the society told him a man was. Yet he was, a gentle person deep inside, and he craved love. He craved it, especially a woman's love. He craved his mother's love, and he craved women. And it set up this kind of a push me, pull you sort of a feeling. And he would lash out. He would get angry and lash out, and he could be very bombastic and get very drunk and obnoxious. And I read an article about how he and Harry Nilsson went on this really bad drunken tear across Los Angeles. And they went to go see poor Tommy Smothers, the Smothers brothers, and they basically just ruined this guy's show, and because they were so wasted and heckling him. And part of it's because Yoko kicked him out. She was like, and so he was like getting wasted and acting like a teenager. So Libras can do that too. They can act out if they're hurt, and they have a hard time kind of connecting to that heart energy to understand why they're feeling this way and why they're doing that. And that's one of the reasons why I like to pick the stones. I always when I see someone has a lot of harsh, like hot air. If I see they got a lot of hot air, if I see they got a lot of fire, if they've got a lot of air and fire and not enough water, I always go for the rose quartz and I always go for the moonstone, because those are two very, very heart opening and like watery energy stones, that gentle, loving connection between the mind and the heart. So there's a little bit more self-awareness. So when we have self-awareness, then we can take action and, not just blindly stumble around Los Angeles with Harry Nilsson wasted.
Okay.
The other stone I really found interesting when I was doing research was the tourmalinated quartz, just because the stone itself has two different energies combined together. The black tourmaline with the clear quartz, I think it's kind of a neat stone because you've got the deep
tourmalinated quartz?
Or terminal. I know there's two different ways of spelling it. I've seen tourmalinated and tourmalated, but it's basically black tourmaline mixed in with clear quartz.
Yeah, I've seen it spelled different ways too. They usually call it. I know it as tourmalated quartz. I absolutely adore that stone.
Well, tell us more about it, because I know you're the crystal expert. So you probably know why I chose this for a sign like Libra.
Well, this is why I love the stone. I mean, I'm probably on the lookout for more of it as now that we're talking about it. It has clear quartz and black tourmaline in the same stone. So it's got the higher chakras, the clear energies, and then it's got the black energies, which are the protecting and grounding. And I've always said that most of the problem that people have is that either they're not grounded or they're too much up in their head, and sometimes it's the combination of the both. I find that a lot of energy workers, the ones that are, what's the word I want to use? The ones that just totally put themselves out there, just give everything away for free, everything's up in their head, and there's no grounding to them that we are in the physical world. And you know what? Guess what? We have rent to pay, we have food to buy, and the last time I checked, Mobile didn't take Reiki as a form of payment.
That's too bad.
They want cash money.
They really do.
They really do. And so I like that stone for almost anybody, for almost any reason, because it has both of those energies in. It's very balancing because it's totally at both ends of the spectrum. The only thing that would possibly make that stone better is if it was mixed in with a little bit of rose quartz.
Ooh, then it would be almost perfect for a Libra or anybody that had a lot of that scattered energy. Libras definitely need grounding. Well, all air signs do, I think, pretty badly, because they're all operating from their head. And I usually recommend the grounding stones for everybody, but I always think that, I said on my blog that Libras probably could double down on them. It would probably be good for a Libra to have, a lot of smoky quartz around them, black tourmaline, that's in the how do you say it? Tourmalated?
Tourmalated.
tourmalated quartz. I should go in and just change it to that so that I don't confuse myself. And I always love snowflake obsidian because of its
Again, another one of my favorite things. And what's really nice about snowflake obsidian is that it's made into such beautiful jewelry.
Yes. I've seen some pretty amazing things with it. I'm always looking for larger pieces of it too. I've got a lot of little tumbled pieces that I keep in pockets because it's one of my go-to stones. I tend to carry it around with me a lot, but I'm always looking for like the larger spheres or like bigger raw chunks of it if I could find it.
Yeah, you know what? I've not seen large.
I never have either. I've never seen a large piece of it, and I would love to, but I mean, even Googling, I haven't seen anything that big. But I'm not giving up hope. It might be out there.
I've seen big pieces of tourmalated quartz. I've seen huge pieces. You have also here in your list rutilated quartz, which I don't like nearly as well as a tourmalated quartz.
I've seen the gold. I mean, the gold rutilated quartz is more recommended for Libra than just plain old rutilated because I can't remember why I read that. I read that, but it's the gold rutilated quartz that was more recommended for Libra. I don't think I was clear about that. But yeah, that's not nearly as great as the tourmalated quartz.
Yeah. And rutilated quartz is just that it has those golden root. They call it golden rutiles that are. I mean, it's very pretty. It is really. It's, my opinion, almost as pretty as tourmalated quartz as the and they have the black rutiles in there.
Right. Oh, I also picked the blend of the azurite and malachite together because I like the idea of, again, trying to connect to that heart center, the heart chakra with the malachite, but it's mixed in with the azurite. So it's almost like clarity within the heart center.
Yes. That's usually, that combination, azurite malachite, is found quite often naturally. I have a couple of pieces, but it's a very fragile piece too. I've got a couple of raw chunks of azurite malachite. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And one thing I always like to mention when anyone talks about malachite contains copper. So it's not something, and yeah, most adults are not going to put rocks in their mouth. However, if you have children or you have animals that might find stuff and stick it in their mouth, you want to be careful with the malachite.
You know what I heard about malachite? It's almost like an old folklore thing about it, that it will break in the presence of an enemy. Like if
I've heard that too.
If you're wearing a piece of jewelry, or also too, if you lose it, it means it's done protecting you, and you need to take another piece or something. I've lost pieces of malachite because I love malachite. I'm very drawn to it. I love the bands of it. I have a beautiful egg shape that in fact, the Libra boss that I work for is the one that bought it for me. We used to work around the corner from this amazing store in New York City on the corner of 34th Street in Madison, and I think it's called World of Gems. And they've got, tumbled stones and stuff, but they've got some really beautiful pieces and giant geodes and stuff like that. But we used to go in there, and he bought me like an agate ashtray. And back when I smoked, I quit smoking years ago, but now I use that agate ashtray to hold some of my tumbled stones near my bed. And then he bought me this, I actually picked it up off my shelf, and I'm holding it, my malachite egg. They used to make the marble and stone eggs for Victorian women to put in their hands so they weren't hot, sweaty, and unbecoming. And which is great because my hands are always hot, and not just because I do Reiki. So I used to love this because, when you touch a genuine stone, it's cool to the touch.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's a resin like amber. But so this is I've always been attracted to malachite because of the cool bands in it and the swirls, and I just love it. I think it's beautiful. So it's amazing. I've had this egg for like 20 years, but I've had pieces of malachite jewelry that have just disappeared. And apparently I was really upset about it too. And they're just like, and a friend of mine, she told me, years ago, she was like, she's like, it's done with you.
Well, you know what? A lot of crystals do that.
It's done with you.
I have, and I'll know. I put something away. I can't find it. Where did it go? and it's like gone forever. And then maybe 2 or 3 years later, it's back exactly where I left. And it's like, how did you do that?
That's so
Um,
funny.
I've also had, crystals break into. I had a piece of amethyst break on me. How does amethyst break? That's a pretty hard stone. I had an
Yeah.
amethyst wand break on a rug. I dropped it on a rug and it broke.
So it was done.
No, it's just that now I had two pieces, and I
Oh,
made, and I had a friend who does she's what is she? She's pagan, and she made me a wand with goose feathers and a piece of malachite, by the way.
oh, is that
And
Stephanie's?
yes,
She makes beautiful wands.
oh my God! And I got one of her elk antler
Nice.
wands. Oh yeah, it's awesome. We have to get her on the show and interview her, don't we?
She
She
would be
makes
a really
the most awesome wands I've ever seen. I think I have. I bought two from her, and I had her make me one.
nice. Well, plus, she's really interesting because she's very involved with her group.
She's an author. Have you ever read her
Yeah.
books?
No, I haven't,
Oh my God.
but I'd love
They're
to.
like I got the book on the Morrigan, and the book is like it's bigger than textbook. And usually my attention span for books that thick tend to be really,
Hmm.
you're not getting to the point. Couldn't get to the point like 500 pages ago, but I read the whole book from cover to cover. She's got another book out on oh, I don't even know what it's. God, I wonder if I could Google it real quick. Let's go, Stephanie Woodfield books. And I don't have a copy of that book yet, but I think I'm going to buy it. Oh,
Well,
here it
then,
goes. Drawing Down the Sun.
ooh,
And she's got Celtic lore. She got the book, but the book I got was on the Morgan. And I read that book cover to cover.
very well. Yeah, we should definitely put her on the list to
Yes.
interview because she's a very powerful, energetic person. Very cool. Yeah, so I remember your wand. I didn't realize malachite was on it.
Yes. So yeah, it's really
So yes,
pretty.
malachite is, I like it combined with the azurite for Libra, just because it kind of like can help temper some of that hot air, or at least to connect to the heart and to do it with a gentle, like loving, opening energy. But also, they need to be grounded. You need, they rather than being defensive. I think of in terms of dogs being defensive aggressive. I
Mhm.
think a lot of humans can be like that. And, I know the male Libras, because they're so tender inside, they might come across as a little more blustery and angrier than the women, partially because, they're afraid of their own, the depths of their own feelings. And that's, I hate to, not all Libras. I mean, a hashtag, not all, not all everybody, because, it all depends on whether, and I might have to talk about that sometime in one of our shows about aspects and how it affects the chart, but that's a little more intense, and we can get into that later. But as far as for this purpose, if there's an opposite or a square between other planets within the chart, it can make a person a little bit, have a little bit more of a dynamic tension within their personality, and so you want to have some tension, otherwise you're very boring and lazy. But too much tension, and you can be really difficult to get along with. I mean, it's nice to have a nice balance of planets that clash and planets that get along. You want a little bit of tension, otherwise nothing ever gets done. But
Mhm.
some Libras that are poorly aspected can be kind of angry and cranky. So I always say focus on the heart, get grounded, and that's a good way to balance out those energies. But let me tell you something. If I want someone to sell something for me in a non-pushy way, I mean they're pushy but they're gentle about it, I would ask a Libra to do it because they are smooth talkers.
All right. I will remember that. All right. Let's talk about our next show. Next in 2 weeks. I want to do something on removing energetic blockages, and guess who's going to be my guinea pig?
Who?
Oh, that might be
Me?
you. Yes.
Yay! Yeah, I got energetic blocks. I can tell you right now, man, my third chakra is a mess.
Well, we're going to work on it. I want to talk about what they are, how to deal with them, and I think I have two really really easy exercises for you to remove your own blocks.
Well, maybe we can do it on the show, and then everyone else who listens can follow along at home and do it too.
Yes, they could.
That'd be cool.
Okay then. So, see you in 2 weeks.
Right on. Sounds good. Have a great night.
You too.
Bye.
Goodbye.